moving on to football transfer portal, which opens this week. It will open Wednesday, juxtaposed against Michigan football spring game, obviously coming this Saturday. We've already got news of guys who intend to enter the portal. Jaden McBurrows was the latest on Monday. We had a couple players late last week. The names, again, forgive me, last week feels like forever ago, so you can refresh my memory on who some of those guys are, but nothing too terribly surprising. Nothing, Nico Yamaliava level, certainly, for Michigan percolating here, but portal needs, again, we've been harping on offensive line, wide receiver for a while. I think that they're open to, obviously rounding out their depth in a couple other areas. And also we know that the roster is going to have to be trimmed a bit with these limits coming. So portal opens this week, fellas. What are you keeping an eye on?
Offensive line. First and foremost, they need some help there. Everything we've heard, and people could be like, "Oh, well, you guys are glass half empty guys." No, there's a reason that they're still looking, and there are a couple names that are going to surface that you're going to hear Michigan involved with. So they still need to tackle, in my opinion. And you've got the golden goose back there with Bryce Underwood. You've got to protect him. So that's number one. Number two, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them circle back to a wide receiver. Although it does sound to me like the wide receiver room is exceeding expectations, or at least rising to that level of competency plus, right? Which we have not seen. We didn't see last year for sure. So that needs to be better. And a punter. Definitely need a punter. I hope that they address that. That one worries me a little bit, because to me, I understand that there are some guys on the roster, but you got to have a good punter, especially if you've got an offense that with some question marks. So they want to be good in all three phases. That's where they really need to improve.
Yeah, and JB Brown was saying today that they're going to look for a punter, and really the spring transfer portal has been fantastic to the Michigan special teams unit over the years. James Turner in 2023, and Hudson Hollowbeck comes in. He's the favorite right now to start at punter that year. And then last year was Zavada, just maybe the most underrated at the time, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, just unbelievable transfer portal ad, especially considering the fact that none of us knew at the time that they were going to have basically no real offense last year other than Zavada, or no consistent offense other than Zavada. So punter there, because right now Marlon Klein is taking the reps as the backup punter. Soccer background, got a nice leg. He's been, kind of that guy on travel rosters that has been the emergency punter, but you need more there. So that I agree on offensive line. I mean, that's something we've talked about for a long time, that I just don't feel very comfortable with out some more competition there at the very least. If not, somebody who you can plug in and start right away at probably left tackle, at least one of the tackles. So yeah, I could see wide out too. I feel like I'm getting more optimistic by the day on Donovan McCulley, just because like everyone keeps pointing to him as somebody standing out, and they have a bunch of bodies there. So that one as well. And then best available. I mean, some position that you may not necessarily need, but you want to add to if there's a fit or a prior connection or something like that. But yeah, the Amorion Walker era, at least for now, is over at Michigan. He goes Michigan, Ole Miss, Michigan, and TBD after that. But man, sometimes there's a reason why you move schools a couple times and you move positions a couple times. Is he didn't have a jersey number this spring. First time I've ever seen that. It's like I don't know what the future will be, but good luck to him, and maybe he will be back though, given his track record. So we'll see.
That freak show at receiver that Jim Harbaugh talked about: Tyler Morris, Darius Clemens, and Amorion Walker. I wonder what the career numbers are for those guys. Not very good.
And
not great.
Yeah. And Walker,
one of them
corner half the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, Tyler Morris. Shout out to Tyler Morris in the Rose Bowl. Also, shout out, obviously, tore his ACL, Indiana. That sucks. I feel terrible for that guy. Always was good with us. From there, Clayton, I'm with you. I think I'm a little more optimistic on the wideouts, just because, when there were decisions to be made, and, they bring Ron Bellamy back. They address the roster needs in the transfer portal. And, we've talked about recently a lot, truth serum, right? The moves you make kind of being more telling than what is said or what some people might think. I think that by and large on offense, the message that's been sent is, hey, we think with an experienced play caller with gravitas and a track record of developing explosive offenses and a better quarterback room is going to unlock a lot more for the rest of us. And so far, it seems like that might be the case for them. Offensive line is the one area, though, where you're just looking at that one spot of the team that just kind of screams, I don't even, we'll just call it what it is, deficiency at the moment. And that would be one. So I don't know. I feel like the last few years, they keep hyping the spring transfer portal as that it's going to be crazy. Just wait. You guys wait. It's going to be crazy. And then it's just kind of, these appetizers and filling needs. And again, Michigan's done it in a very shrewd way with like guys like Zavada. And I think James Turner, didn't they add him after the spring as well? Josh Wallace, Amir Hall. So whoever they pick up, you're going to feel pretty good that they're going to contribute. But
Wes Walker.
Yabioki, wasn't he?
He was the August transfer portal.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. 15 days before the season started. That
doesn't exist. But
yeah.
I think you need a quarterback too. This spring. You have to add one. And with Mikey Keene's, health situation in doubt, who knows when you get somebody back, and then you start to think, okay, even if they are back, like what we went through with Jack Tuttle last year, how back are they? How healthy are they? And you only have two right now. You have more guys coaching the quarterbacks than you have healthy quarterbacks. It's great for getting those guys reps in the spring, but it gets dicier as you move forward. And what if they have a departure in next week to the portal? I mean, then you only have one. So I think you have to get a quarterback. Whether, you would ideally it'd be somebody who could start if you needed him to. I mean, you have a guy who's the number one overall recruit last year that has 4 years of eligibility left. He says he's going to use 3 of them, but that's hard to get somebody in here. We already saw that with the challenge. It was actually kind of amazing looking back that Mikey Keene was willing to sign up for that competition. But yeah, I mean, you need more bodies in there. Chase Herbstreit comes in the summer, but he's another freshman. You can't just have a couple freshmen and one sophomore.
No.
Yeah. You can't put yourself in a spot where, and again, I'm not putting this energy into the world, but right now you're an injury away from either not having a backup quarterback, well, that regardless, or Jaden Davis started games, or Donovan McCulley. Maybe he has to be your emergency guy, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Terrible. Just ruined my mood. Should have won that Nebraska game that year that he had to get in there. But I don't know what sort of expectation to set for the type of quarterback that can come in. I almost feel like you just need another body. And the thing is that I don't want to say there's a desperation, but if you're looking for a guy who could maybe start games, that comes with a bigger price tag. But then
it's probably worth it.
Is that as much of a need once Keene does come back healthy? And then, is that the best allocation of assets? So there's a lot to work through. If they can find anyone just to come in and it doesn't matter if they're holding the clipboard, like you need to protect yourself a little bit more there because you have been ravaged by injury with Davis Warren's injury, Mikey Keene's just before spring ball. So that's probably, it's not even a sneaky need. That is a glaring need at the moment.
Yep, I agree 100%. Clay nailed that one, and yeah, I'd love to see Davis Warren come back, pull his Willis Reed, and all of a sudden be ready to go by football season, and he's running. Yeah, you never know. So, but yeah, that is another area of need. So I fully expect that they are going to go and try to address those, but they have to, guys. They can't go in like last year. They said, well, quarterback, we feel great about what's in the room, and I said all along, no, you need a quarterback, and then this year it's the offensive line for me. You don't want to have those weak links when you have an opportunity. Last year, if you had a really, really good quarterback, for example, I don't know how many more games you win, but I bet it's at least 1 or 2, right? And then you're looking at that season in a completely different light. So you cannot have those deficiencies this year.
Yeah, no question. And you mentioned the price tag, Anthony, because I was thinking that too. Okay, if it is somebody who would be good enough to start in a pinch if you needed him to, it's going to cost a decent amount. I think it'd probably be worth it. I mean, depending on the amount and the player, of course, but You know,
And it's not our money. It's not our money, so of course it's worth it.
Right. But as a coach in this current landscape, like you have to figure out what you're willing to leave to chance because you don't have unlimited money and, you know, no roster is going to be without its flaws, but this feels like a worthwhile endeavor. And, you know, so I think that like you look at that Brendan Sullivan kid from Iowa who, you know, started games at Northwestern, started games at Iowa, is planning to enter the portal. And then I was thinking, you know, because he can run and stuff, so he could maybe add an element if, you know, even if he's not the starter, you know, red zone packages, things like that. Apparently the buzz is that he's going to end up going to a MAC school and starting. That's not surprising. And then I was just looking up here, that Ryan Brown kid for Purdue that came in and was like, he's from Michigan and all that, transferred to North Carolina. So he's probably, he probably got paid a decent amount there, but someone like that, it was like mobile and could contribute either way. And you could sell to them, hey, you're going to have a role no matter what. Feels like the fit to me. I'm just spitballing, but and we'll see what options are out there. But you really hope that they can get somebody.
Any other portal thoughts? Spring football. This is a weird one because despite a big end, you know, the end of the year that they had with wins over Ohio State, Alabama, with Bryce Underwood coming in, this is probably like the least buzzed spring game that I've ever covered going into it. I mean, are you guys feeling the same way?
Yeah, and part of that's because, well, you got two quarterbacks, right? And you know that they're not going to be hitting, and it's just going to be, it's not going to be televised, right? So, and you wonder how often they're going to continue to do this because more and more schools are not doing spring games. So, but to me, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they've got at receiver. I'm excited to see Bryce Underwood, and to me, you know, that's going to be pretty telling as to the direction of this program this year, this team anyway, not the program. I feel good about the direction of the program. I think the way they finished last year and the way they're recruiting, if they can pick it back up, is they're going to be just fine. But the season really comes down to what the offense does, because I think the defense is going to be spectacular. So, but it's always fun being in Michigan Stadium, guys, on a Saturday when it's 55 degrees. I don't care if it's spring or if it's fall. Obviously, there's a little bit more buzz when it's fall, but I'm excited to be there.
I feel like there's a decent amount of excitement. I've been getting texts and whatnot from people who wouldn't usually go to a spring game that want to go and see Bryce Underwood for the first time. I think it could have as good a turnout as the 2015 spring game when it was Jim Harbaugh's first quote unquote game as Michigan's head coach. It was packed. I was in the stands for that game, and there were a ton of people there. You have three things working in your favor: better weather, we talked about earlier. It's not on TV, and Bryce Underwood is you know, going to be playing and making his debut, not in a real game, but in a game-like setting for Michigan. So. I don't know. I mean, I think it's not getting promoted. Like, you're not seeing it on the Fox, you know, commercials and all that, because like last year they broadcast it on there. But I think it's going to be, you know, kind of one of the, like, the tailgating scene will be pretty good. I think it's going to be an exciting Saturday.
And part of that might have to do with the fact that it feels like basketball season literally just ended and we went a little longer than we expected to. You know, I feel, and I know we'll probably, you know, we'll sometime this week we'll do our spring game draft as we've done, you know, the Thursday show. I'm sure we'll preview the spring game in general, but I think just the one thing that I would love to come out of this weekend with, and I feel like, Chris, you and I have talked about this a few years at the spring game, where it's just, there's a couple of those spring games from those last few, you know, the team that went to the Fiesta Bowl, the team that won the national title, where they would sub in, you know, second, third, sometimes fourth team. And that level of play was still pretty high across the board. I think that's the one thing where, you don't want to see it become a game of patty cake late on or late on in the game, because you got a bunch of guys that aren't going to play a ton out there. That's the depth is what I'm most interested in figuring out.
Especially on offense. Defense, I have no concerns, honestly. I think this defense is athletic. I don't know that there are many weaknesses. We'll see what the third corner looks like. We'll see what the third defensive end looks like when it comes to pass rush. But look at the safety room. That's as deep as I remember, guys. And I've been doing this a long time. So there's some star power out there too, I believe. So maybe not the star power that is Will Johnson and Mason Graham, but Derek Moore, I think, is primed. We heard in one scrimmage he was living in the backfield, which is good if you're a defensive guy, which will raise concern if you're worried about the offensive tackles, right? But They've got guys that can move. It's going to be that defense is going to be nasty. I love a nasty defense, fellas. To me, that's where it starts. So Rayshawn Benny is going to be a monster, in my opinion. So I like where they are defensively, but it's going to be that offensive line, guys, that all eyes are going to be on, and it's not even the backups there, fellas. We're looking at the first stringers.
Yeah, and the first stringers split up into different teams, so it'll be hard to judge all that. And I will say, as we go along in this era of college football, as we keep talking about in different topics, there's going to be less depth probably on the University of Michigan football team, but also on other teams across the country, because it kind of evens out. If you're Dom Jadis and you get passed over, you're going to go to Missouri and start. That's just the nature of this thing right now. So there'll probably will be less depth. I am going to be interested to see how they handle guys like, they didn't play many of the starters. They're kind of guys that are like cemented as starters last year in the spring game. Derek Moore, guys like that, Josiah Stewart, they played like a series, which, with the way the offense was moving the ball in that game was like 5 plays. And then you put in more of the 2s and 3s. But even then, right, are you a little worried that word's going to get out that you got some backup whatever that's playing well? I mean, I know they're not as afraid of that as other schools, but it's still got to be a concern because the portal's open. So it'll just be interesting to see how they handle it, because it does feel like this year is just different even than the other years with the way people are handling these spring games.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, the new craze is being guarding your spring game or canceling your spring game, like the neutral, like their nuclear launch codes, like you have all these big secrets on your roster. No TV for Michigan. Do you think there might be some advanced scouting from other schools in the stands, and it's a free event? So
just as long as they aren't recording the sidelines, right, then everything will be fine. So
how would you even explain that to the children of the Michigan fan base? Honestly,
there you have it.
If you're a staffer for another team, I don't think you can show up, right? I mean, it's still like a practice. So
yeah, you can show up with a hat on and like a goatee and some sunglasses.
Yeah, you could send someone with a cell phone, and there'll be video that comes out. I may record it, so we'll see.